Okay, welcome to this very first video. So what we're gonna do here is to take actually the very first but very essential step for learning to use R for data science. That means we are going to install R and RStudio. So R is basically the programming language that we're about to use during this course. And RStudio, you can think of as an elaborated text editor that allows you to do all kind of cool stuff and that facilitates you or that facilitates a lot of practical steps, routine steps, so to speak. The most important thing is that you install R first and only then move to RStudio. It's not going to work to install RStudio and then R. So this sequence is absolutely essential. Apart from this sequence, there will probably some things that have changed between the time when I recorded the video and when you are installing R. But that is, I think, not very important. So the general structure should be the same. And I will focus here on installing R and RStudio. I pledge you to also look at the tutorial that I've written for installation, because there are also a couple of other software packages we're about to use. But registering for them is very straightforward. So I will not invest any time here in the video to explain to you how to register, for instance, for GitHub. You can see this in the written tutorial of how to do that. Apart from that, once you completed the installation of R and RStudio, there's one more thing you need to do. You need to install a couple of R packages, which can be thought of as certain extensions written by other people that we're about to use during the course. There's a dedicated video for that, and you shouldn't start watching this video before the installation of R and RStudio has been completed. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is to download R from the official CRAN server. So to this, and you just search for CRAN R by Google. Go on this website, cran.r-project.org. And you will also already see here at the top of the site that there are different versions of R depending on your OS. In my case, I'm going to install the version for Mac OS, but for Linux or Windows, it's basically the same approach. Now, if you click here, there's one thing you need to be particularly careful about when you're using a MacBook or a Mac computer from Apple, because there are two different versions of R. Depending on whether you are using a chip from Apple or a chip from Intel. And there are two different versions. So you see here is the version for M1 chips or higher, and here's the one for Intel chips. If you're not sure what kind of chip you're using, you can click here about this Mac. And you see here on the processor line whether your chip is actually one of the Apple-based M1 or M2, M3 version, or whether it's an Intel processor. So I'm a little bit old-fashioned. I still grab the Intel one. So I'm about to download this one here. And once it's finished, I am going to open it, and then there will be a standard installation process that you can just basically continue, and you need to agree to the terms of use, which is standard. You need to install it. There's usually no need to change the installation location. It might be the case that you need to like add your password for the computer. And then that's basically it. So in the best case, you see that the installation was successful. You can close the window and you can move the installer to the bin. So the next thing you do depends, again, a little bit on your OS. If you're on Windows, you need to install a tool called RTools. If you are on Mac OS, you need to install a tool called Command Line Developer Tools. And if you are on Linux, you are most likely fine, but you need to check with your version of Linux in the internet. Now, if you are on Windows, you can actually just go to the tutorial, and here you find a link to the website from which you can download RTools, or you just look it up in the internet. In some sense, you will come to this website here where you find all the relevant installation tools. It is important that you check out the right version of R here. If you're not sure which version you are using, you can basically open R and then just see the version once it opens. You can also, if you're not sure how to open R yet, you can also wait with this step until we have installed RStudio in the next step. But once you know which version of R you have, you just choose the right version of RTools here, just download it and install it as you would do with any other program for Windows. So that shouldn't be too much of a big deal. If you are on Mac OS, you need to install something called the command line developer tools. To do this, it's the most easiest thing is you open the app terminal. It's called just terminal, which will open a terminal like this. Here you then write down the code that is also written on the web page, xcode -select and then --install, and then you press enter. If the command line developer tools are for some reason already installed on your computer, you will get an error message like this, basically telling you that's not necessary to install it. If it hasn't been installed so far, this will basically trigger the installation process, which again is pretty much straightforward. And after you installed our tools or the command line developer tools, you're actually ready to go to take the next step to install the IDE, the integrated development environment that we're using to actually interact with R, which is called RStudio. And we will do that in the next step. Now, to install RStudio, it's again quite straightforward. Probably the most easiest way to do it is just to search for it in the internet. So like RStudio install or something like this. This will bring you to a web page from an organization called POSIT, which is basically the name of the organization that publishes RStudio. And you come to a web page like this. You already installed R, so no need to do that here. So you go to install RStudio. Usually the web page automatically detects your OS. So here, if you click here, you automatically download the version that you actually need. If for some reasons you want to download a different version, you can scroll down and use or find the version that you need here. And then you basically download the package. And then it depends a little bit on your OS. If you're on Windows, you just need to execute the installation program. If you're on Mac OS, just open the package, you move the program to your applications folder. If you're updating RStudio, there will already be an application called RStudio and you need to replace it. If you install RStudio for the first time, that should be basically it. And you just basically need to wait. And once that is completed, you can actually check out whether everything has worked so far. You can do this by opening the program, depending on how you do it, how you open the apps on your computer. That might look slightly different, but you can basically open the app. You should probably get a notification such as this, where you need to confirm that you that you can open the app. And then you should see something like this. Here, your current R version is shown. So in case you're here and you haven't installed our tools before because you weren't sure about what kind of version of R you're using, here you see the version you have. And then that's basically it. Now you are ready to use R via RStudio. And you can basically start or proceed with the next steps, which are first install or register for the other services that we're about to use. in this course. You find all the relevant links in the course tutorial, and then thereafter move to the installation of the relevant R packages, for which we have a separate video guiding you through this process.